Hey boys and girls, today we're going to be moving on in our 1 through 9 book, page 191, and we're going to represent multiplication with unit fractions. So that just means kind of like our fractions that we see a lot of. Okay, so we can solve this by multiplying those fractions using a model. We use a model all the time when we're doing this work. So we figure out, a lot of times pictures are helpful for us and they're very quick. It's a very quick way for us to show our work and what we're doing. And to help it make sense in our head. Alright, so it says a chef uses 1/4 of a package of dough. Before using this part of the package of dough, she cuts it into thirds. What fraction of a whole package is each of those small pieces? Okay, so there's lots of different ways to do this. So already, we're not starting off with a whole number here. So that's one thing that's very different. We're starting off with a fraction. So, I want to show this two different ways. Now you remember when we first started talking about fraction, we would use our benchmark and we would always have it up there so that we could compare to it. So this is called using a bar model where you're just kind of drawing it out just like your fraction tiles. Okay? And so this is one way to kind of look at it. Now we're taking our 1/4 and we're putting it into thirds. What fraction of a whole package is each of these smaller pieces? So I'm taking this 1/4 and I'm then putting it into thirds. So I'm finding 1/3 of my 1/4, or 1/3 times a 1/4. So a lot of, when we start doing this, you're going to see that 3 and 4 and you're going to automatically think of something, okay? So we can do this by showing our fraction tiles. And I'll show you another way you could do it. So we've got 1 and we've got a 1/4. So I'm thinking, okay, if I'm going to divide that into 3 parts, then I need 3 things that would fit perfectly in here. Now when I think of 4 and 3, the first number that comes to my mind is 12. And I see that 3/12 fits perfectly in there. So this is one way that you can do it, okay? Another way, so I've got my 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have 1/4. Remember, she had 1/4 of the package. And she was cutting that into thirds. So cut the opposite way, right? Because I cut 1, 2, 3 parts. So then, this is an easy way to see this part is 1, but remember now we've got it cut so much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Each of these is a 12. Okay? So there's different ways that you might see it. You may like to draw this out, which is what I like to do a lot of times because it is just a simple, quick way to do it, and I like visualizing it. Some of you may look at it and know 1/3 times 1/4 is going to be 1/12. When we're multiplying fractions, you can just multiply right across. Again, I hope you're noticing here that when we found 1/3 of a 1/4, it was a much smaller amount. When we have thirds and chop them into 4 parts, we're going to have smaller parts. When we have thirds, and chop them into 4ths, we're going to have smaller parts. So, each little package each little small piece is going to be a 12th here. Alright? If we turn to the next page, 192, only a third of Chef's specialty pizza is left at closing time. The chef eats half of the leftover pizza. How much of the whole pizza does she eat? Okay, again, let's see what they have. I always draw my stuff in rectangles. We can have rectangular pizza, right? So, there's only a third of it left. So I'm going to go ahead and represent a third. Another reason I like to use rectangles is because you have your grid paper or your notebook paper, and you can always make these lines straight. You know, circles, it's kind of hard to represent it sometimes. So, you have a third of it. The chef eats half of the leftover, okay? Eating half of this. A lot of times when I ask questions like this, my students will say, well, they ate half the pizza. They ate half. But they were eating half of that leftover third. So, all we have to do now is say, okay, if I have this much and I eat half of it, remember half would be in 2 equal pieces, then I'm going to eat this part. Now this part is 1 piece out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I ate a 1/6 of it, or the chef does. So you found half of the third, or a half times a third, which we see is a 6. We can see it very easily here that it's a 6. So we kind of already answered this. How do you name the fraction of the whole pizza? Well, we know that he had a third. We represented that. Then we cut that in half. All right, let's keep going. So on 193, the chef also makes stromboli. 1 serving is half of a stromboli. What fraction of a meter is the length of 1 serving? Alright, so first we're looking at this number line. So sometimes number lines can help us. Okay, so 1 serving is half of a stromboli. So we'll go ahead and represent our half. And then a serving, it tells us up here, is, wow, half of a 1/4. Okay, so I've got my 1/4 here, but it's split in half to show my servings. So let's see here. I know that 2/4 makes a half. So 1/4, 2/4. I'm gonna just kind of squeeze it right there to represent that. So half of the 1/4 would be right here. So I'm gonna write out what I'm doing. 1/2 of a 1/4. So if I have a 1/4 and I cut it in half, now I'm gonna have how many pieces? Again, this is a good way that you can do it, but I like to draw it out. That's just a strategy I like to use. So I know I have a 1/4, and it's okay if we don't have it drawn just right. Then if I find half of that, 1 little part is 1 piece out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the fraction would be 1/8, because 1/2 times 1/4 equals 1/8. All right. Number lines are very good. You've got to understand your fractional amounts really well to do that. You've got to know that half of a 1/4 would be an 1/8. Half of an 1/8 would be a 16th. You know, you guys can probably figure that out. If not, I do like using this strategy to help me. And let's do this one. It says the chef makes a rectangular pizza. At closing time, 1/6 of the pizza is left. The chef eats half of that leftover pizza. Draw that model, okay? So, he already made a rectangular pizza. I was going to make it a rectangle anyhow. 1/6 of the pizza is left. So I need to put these in 6 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now another nice thing about doing this, we don't have to have it perfect. It doesn't matter if they're equal and perfect as long as I am representing my parts. There's only 1/6 of it left, and he eats half of that. He eats half of the 1/6. So let's think about what that answer would be. Half of 1/6, well, here's a half. One piece out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That would be 1/12. Okay? So we're going to stop right there. I want you guys to continue to work on your homework and in your book on that page.